Now we're going to talk about transformations. And I love working with parent functions and figuring out their transformations because not only does it let me understand a little bit more about how functions behave, but it keeps me organized. And it's a great skill for learning how to kind of organize your thoughts and go through a problem in a systematic way. Now, if we're going to talk about how this is changing based off of its parent function, well, we should identify the parent function. Now, when we're identifying the parent function, really we're just looking for, if we stripped out all the addition and multiplication and all that stuff, what would we be left with? Well, we'd be left with a squaring function or a parabola. So our parent function here is just x squared. Now, our goal is to figure out how to kind of compartmentalize our transformations. And we're going to do that by first identifying our horizontal versus vertical transformations. So if I take this original, or my parent function here, clearly it's different. And one of the things that's different is I'm not squaring x, right? I'm actually squaring 1/4 x minus 3. So what if I just replaced my x's with that? Oh, well now I know that my output, p of 1/4 x minus 3, is just equal to this piece right here. So, in other words, I can change this to 1/4 x minus 3 squared. And so that's now my output. Now, the important thing to realize here is that everything that is inside here, the 1/4 x minus 3, is affecting my input. That changed the x. So that part is going to create a horizontal change. Okay, great. Well, I can now rewrite my function here in terms of my parent function. Excellent. So now I've rewritten this in terms of my parent function. Well, what is that telling me? Well, that's telling me that normally this would be my output. However, I'm now going to multiply it by 2 and add 5. So those two things, the things that happen outside that parent function, are going to be my vertical changes. So let's look at an example that uses a slightly different parent function and see if we can apply the same method, and we'll try to cut it down a little bit so I'm not explaining every single detail. So first off, we're going to go ahead and find our parent function. Well, I see that I'm using an absolute value here, so my parent function is likely just that absolute value function. Great. So now I'll identify any changes to the normal input. Well, normally I just have an x inside the absolute value. Well, here I have a 3x plus 4. So anything in there, the 3x plus 4, is where I'm going to find my horizontal changes. Great. Well, if that's the case, then anything after I evaluate the absolute value is going to change the output. It's going to be a vertical change. So after I evaluate the absolute value, I'm going to multiply it by -1/2 and then subtract 2. So those two things are going to create vertical transformations or changes. And that's the basics on how you can determine what is going to be a horizontal or a vertical change.